our respected today's guest speaker, and my dear friend Amal Datt Dhru, the
Thank you.
executive
Thank you.
of AMA, Mr. Nair, and family and friends and the participants for this program. Friend, when I was being asked to introduce Amal Dhru, for me it's a big question because the person to whom I know since almost 45, more than 45 years, right from studying in the school together. And I have been very closely associated with him is with his intelligence, with his applications, with his kind of helping nature. He is, I think, he's ultimate is ultimate for any friends, any person who really wants his real advice. I've been seeing him working at Sarabi Group. I've seen him working at Calico Mill. He has also advised me on many my financial management matters also. You know that he's a very practicing management consultant based in Ahmedabad, and he's also a chartered accountant, MBA, and also alumnus from IIM Ahmedabad. Friends, he is also the visiting faculty of IIM and several leading management institutions, and he is the director of several leading corporates, and he did several assignments for the even World Bank and other organizations. As a financial advisor, Gujarat Narmada National Law University, and member of several professional associations, including AMA, and his earlier book, Fundamentals of Business Finance, which is now also one of the another book is getting released today. Friends, let me tell you about this book. I tell you, it is really, I have been seeing Amal Bhai working for MSME and startups since last many years. And I'm happy to state that this book, this Amal Bhai, which he has written, first copy of this book he has gifted me with his own signature. That and let me tell you that only one sitting I could read this book totally, and it is very important book for any startup or any MSME or even a big business people also, because this is a very good book for very much understanding those who wants to start the business, those who want to sustain their business, and those who wants to expand their business. I will give you some quote. It is to simplify something which is really complex and is not a simple task. And I hope this attempt of Amal Bhai helps everybody in firming up your understanding of finance. It is very big thing to understand the finance. I know that how much I have suffered by not understanding the finance during my entrepreneurship period. Thanks to Amal Bhai, he explained to me as you know, my teacher or my tutor or as a friend, philosopher and guide, and total details of the finance. And today I am happy to state that because of his financial management consultancy to me, I am a reasonably successful entrepreneur. In these particular days to come, we all know that quicker and sharper and precise analysis will play a crucial role in financial management. Detailed tabulations with numerous premonitions and combination will easily be available thanks to the IT revolution, and data will thus not be a major constraint. But the sound understanding of fundamentals will be required to analyze these data, and it is my humble attempt, request to each and every entrepreneur to please go through this book for your success. By getting attracted and impressed by this book, let me tell you, in my own association, Gujarat Chemical Association, I immediately ordered 50 books from Amal Bhai to give to my young entrepreneur in my association. So I must say this book, which is called Fundamentals of Business Finance, and which is for startup, MSME, and big businesses. I'm sure this is a good attempt, and really, I would put it that it's a really good humanitarian services for the startup and MSME. So once again, thank you very much and welcome to Amal Bhai. And I officially request Amal Bhai to launch this book. Amal Bhai.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jamin Bhai, for your very kind words. And uh, a book release from the hands of a friend of 45 years and the person whom I really admire, Jamin Bhai. Thank you very much. And here is the book which I hereby put it to people. In fact, this book is dedicated to all the readers. To any person who reads this book, it is dedicated to him. So it gives me a uh, very special feelings in releasing this book uh, with your introduction. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Uh, as you mentioned, it is written in a slightly different way. Um, what I wrote about 20 years back in the 2000. I first started with the first version, and um, then I thought it requires improvement. So again, in 2008, 9, I improvised it. And the finance is a very dynamic field. And from what it was in 2000 and what it is now in 2020, if you read both the books, you feel that what type of changes have actually taken place in the way finance operates and the way people react to it. Um, and therefore, I thought, let me update this book a little further, and that's what this is. In fact, we are going to talk about most of the things which are covered in the book, but the aspect of this book which I would like to highlight is the points to ponder. The points to ponder. In fact, there was a double mind. I was thinking that whether it should be continuity, but then to keep point to ponder and then give the answer at the end gives you the reader some time to flip around the pages. He thinks about the question, and then he goes to that page. Again, the question is repeated, and then he reads the answer. That 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 helps, I think, to train the mind, and that associates the reader more with the author. And to associate further, there is a website also called financefundas.com. I invite all of you to just have a look at it. It is an interesting website, and I would love to interact with the persons who want to dwell. Uh, in fact, um, besides, I could not resist the temptation of um, writing about things which are little more than just pure simple business finance. And because the world is changing, over last 6 8 months, you must have realized much more because of COVID, the effect of technology on doing business altogether. And the moment the technology comes into business, business is nothing else but it is made up of marketing, it is made up of procurement, made up of HR, made up of various deals. Now, when technology gets into it, naturally, finance function will also require a lot of help. And therefore, one of the very important aspects, we used to talk about 4 M's and things like that, that marketing is crucial and manufacturing is crucial and HR is crucial. Now, technology, not only to manufacture and provide service, but technology to operate business also is going to be equally crucial. That particular aspect I wanted to bring about in this book, and that's how I approached it. I've also touched upon areas of stock market, whether it is bubble or not. Just, just a thought process. My humble views are there. Uh, about blockchains and cryptocurrency, it's going to be huge. Uh, Today we may just take it as one of the back burners. It's not a back burner, but it is going to really burn your backs. The moment and the governments will have to be very careful about what's happening. And then, of course, tax planning, tax avoidance, and tax havens. Uh, how these tax havens create havoc with developing countries. I just tried to, in just a page, just to bring the readers, because entrepreneurs of whatever size are entrepreneurs. They would like to know, and unless they know the entire platform of finance, they will not enjoy doing the business. And therefore, in the book, I have tried to uh, just devote a page or two on these areas. So with that, I must, I must thank the friends who have helped me in doing this book. Imran for giving the design. I have to thank Rajat Podar for reading every word, and with my uh, half-baked English and very obvious errors, he really corrected them. Dangaej for a continuous encouragement and reminders in his typical style of his morning phone calls. I must thank. In fact, this lockdown, in fact, the book I had written and then it was in a lockdown. The book was in a lockdown. Then I was not doing anything about it. It was done, everything edited and everything. It was published, karenge, jab karenge, tab karenge. Then came the actual lockdown. So I had some time. And I used the time in pushing it further. And luckily for me, I could get a very respected publishers called technology publishers from Dehradun, and they have been very nice. Arun Singhal, I hope and I'm sure he has joined this. So he helped in publishing it, and there it is. I cannot forget thanking my family, my daughter Kanan, Kelly, and Smita. They have they've given their own sacrifices in their own way, and they've encouraged me throughout. I'm sure they are also participating. I hope. Uh, so with that, I'm really proud and thankful to you, Jamin Bhai. Uh, in fact, I've learned a lot from not only Institute Chartered Accountant, IIM Ahmedabad, my teaching from my students, but from my clients, my friends who have shared so openly their mind on the finance. And unless they had shared and you experimented, uh, uh, I wouldn't have been able to form up the FUNDAS. And I thank all my colleagues in IIM, Amal Datt and Associates. They have also, and my clients, uh, many a times not able to do their work on time just because I'm trying to finish some part of this book. But uh, I hope I have not done them injustice either. I'm thankful to all, and I am thankful to the readers of my past two books and the would-be coming readers of this book. I am very happy uh, that for the initial 50 copies which Jamin Bhai is taking, I will give huge discount which Jamin Bhai finds it appropriate. And there will be a discount for purchase from AMA on the bookshelf. I will be talking to Nair and will be finalizing that as well. And with that, I once again thank you all. And the book is, of course, available on Amazon. It is available on Flipkart and in Ahmedabad. The erstwhile Crossword, now the name is changed and I can't recall the recent name from 1st December, but it's available there. So you can always go, and I'm sure it will be finding its place in various libraries also in short time to come. And so with that, we come to the very topic, sir, of finance fundas for startup. Uh, now, the fundamentals, and so let's first start off with what exactly. Just a second. Why am I not able to turn the page? I should be able to turn the page. Yeah, there I am. Huh. The startup. Um, it's a catchword these days. Everyone would like to sort of, this is a startup. Now, what is a startup? Anyone is a startup here. When Reliance launched their new store, or when they come out with Geo, they were also startup. Of course, they are starting business. Anyone is startup. A successful businessman like Javin Bhai starts something new. He's a startup. Why not? But when we talk about the word startup, we mean that the startups who are eligible for certain benefits. Then we'll be talking about those things a little later in this book. The reason for encouraging the startup is the concept of catch them young. When someone starts, you start taking interest, and If you find the project good, help him to do it well. Well begun is half done. And you become a good friend uh, for meeting his funds requirement. And in future, you can also join in sharing the profits or the sharing the gains which he is able to make. So um, with this in mind, various private equity owners and various persons, some with real philanthropical feeling to help a person in need, some with a feeling that there can be some opportunity, some Google might come out, or some Flipkart will come out, or some Olo will come out. They will start getting into it. So it makes the job of the startup a little more responsible because someone is putting his stake with a view, with some hopes, and therefore the startup also as to because future matters and an opportunity to investor also. The moment you take advantage of someone's opportunity, responsibility comes along with that. So anything which is started anew is a startup. However, for the purpose of being qualified for the help of those who are willing to help, for the investors, those who are willing to invest in new technology, they have criteria like new technology, innovative products, initiatives are new. Either the technology is new or the product is with its delivery process is new. Um, it has scalability. These type of things are kept in mind, and the entities get the benefit as a startup for roughly 7 to 10 years. Their business model has to be innovative, their technology should be new, and it should be scalable. It cannot be just a panka shop. Or if it even if it is the panka shop, the business plan should have that there will be 1,000 pan shops in Ahmedabad, and pan will be something which has scalability. Then only investors will get. It should have a potential to generate employment and wealth creation. And until you get turnover of 25 crores, you are eligible. But the eligibility criteria is different for different persons. Say universities would have certain eligibility criteria, should be a student of a, or some entrepreneurship development institute will have their own criteria. So just check whether your idea fits into that. Don't change your business plan or business model just to fit into someone's this thing, because that will do more harm than good to you. So have your business plan firm up. We'll talk about it later. But one thing is very clear, that the do's and don'ts and the discipline that is required for good financial and business success are the same irrespective of the size of the unit, right? And therefore, the first and fundamental funda is that have a good accounting discipline, right? Write your accounts timely, have a sound system which can also incorporate some crucial information like cost, etc., your quantitative information. Your system should be easy to understand, should be easy to operate. The owner who is sitting at his table should be able to just uh, punch a few keys and be able to get information. So it should be easy to understand. Good accounting system and a good costing system is very, very important, no matter what you do. Another funda is that the person who owns it should really study the product, technology, market, environment, right? Unless you have got a very, very clear understanding, right, it will be very difficult to set up a new business or to run it successfully. At this point of time, I would like that most of these startups, they fail to appreciate and they tend to undermine the importance of legal and statutory compliances. Initially, they all will say that yes, yes, you are a startup, we will not penalize you, we will give you more time for compliance. But see that once that crucial period of 3 to 4 years are gone, and once you are getting into a large level of turnover, right, the compliances are serious. There are huge tax payments which will become due, which will be connected with the penalties, and delays and consequences of non-compliance can be fatal and lead to derailment. The, the compliance environment is complex. So try to understand the labor laws, the industry laws, the pollution control, the goods and service tax, the income tax, all these will be attracted. Startups are not exempt. Initially, some time is given, but they also have to, and therefore keep that in mind, that don't get into an area which you suddenly thought, "Arey, I never knew that GST is so high." uh, because you will have to fix the price, and whether the price is including GST or not including GST will create problem, and the smart negotiator that you will be facing may take advantage that you had said that you are going to sell including GST, so now you bear the GST. So that will have a huge 18 to 19% implication on your entire profitability, this thing. So that is one thing. Know the legal environments, select an appropriate organization structure. That is equally important, because you select either you proprietorship or partnership or trust or whatever, right? Or limited liability company or a limited company. Um, what are the compliance requirement, right? And mind you that the person, we like the title of owner or partner or trustee or CEO, managing director, right? Director. These are attractive titles, but lot of personal liabilities, responsibilities, and penalties. uh, they are tied with very firmly by the legal environment, and you have to understand that uh, you become responsible. And so you moment you get into business, I'm not trying to fear away all these startups, but there is a lot of soft pedaling for startups, where a lot of feel good factors are given for startups, and I'm trying to tell them the feel good and all is correct. I'm not saying it is wrong, but there are things that you have to be careful of. Once a decision of a product, a business plan is taken, or organization structure is selected, it is very, very difficult to change the track, right? Um, and because the time goes and your commitments get deeper, you have and then if you say no, 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 I want to run it as a trust, and you have started as a partnership, how it can run now as a trust? You can change it, not that you can't, you can, but then it will have to be carefully planned and carefully executed. Even your business model, your business plan, right? Think thrice before launching it, because once you launch it, it becomes a bit difficult. Uh, and therefore, careful conceptualization and detailing of the business model and impartial assessment of its viability before implementation is necessary. Take your time, understand it thoroughly, and then you plunge into it, because I won't say there is no going back. There is a going back in almost everything, but then the going back will be painful, time consuming, and costly. Uh, now, a thorough and detailed study and assessment of all available. So once you know what you are going to do, okay, then comes the question of financing it. And before financing, uh, you will have to understand what are the possible avenues, because there is a saying that your decision cannot be better than your best alternative. The moment you sit, so generate alternatives and try to select. Now, don't keep on sitting and keep on generating alternatives only, but have a time that for 2 or 3 months, I'm going to ask people, I'm going to exhaust all the available avenues, and then take a decision. Try to, because your decision will not be better than uh, the best alternative that you generate. So then have financial closure at affordable, possible. What is affordable may not be possible for you. And reliable funding. It can be equity, it can be private equity, it can be loans or informal sources. Understand. Now, at this point of time, a very important funda comes, that the terms and condition and quantity of fund that a startup gets, right, depends not only on the amount that you are going to spend on machinery, or amount you are going to spend on salaries, or amount you are going to spend on tables and chairs. It depends a lot upon the value that you can create out of what you are trying to do. So you have to have an idea that this particular business model, right, can escalate into a 1,000 crore operation, right? And it will require the 200 crore of investment, right? That that mission you should have. Now, not only that you should have, the person who is giving money, right? He should also agree with your vision, right? And when both the person who is seeking money and person who is giving money, right, when they agree that yes, this is possible, if I offer taxi services in cities, right, at a lower cost, right, and at their doorstep, I will be able to do a good business. And then comes Uber. Or if you think that people would like to have choice of something from one restaurant, another thing from another restaurant, and have it in a comfort and leisure while watching TV at their own place, right? Uh, and this market can be huge. There can be a Zomato, right? Or people would like to know, don't keep on asking and going pillar to post in order to, which we used to do. I mean, when we used to be young, if we wanted to know something, we had to really work very hard. But now, just a click, the Google University will give you all sorts of information. And there comes Google. So your idea, how big it can be and how profitable it can be and how beneficial it can be to the other person, to share your fortune, and the way you are able to convince them, right? The value gets created in your idea and in your ability to execute the idea. If you are able to create that, right, you will have a value to your startup idea, and there'll be people who will be willing to. Now, this requires a lot of, this is not so simple, but if you can do it, then it is wonderful. So you must have a very good idea about what your business is and how it can be scalable. Some people underestimate their own ideas. ठीक है, I've got just a taxi service and I've got 6 taxis and I've got 7 taxis. They didn't realize that this taxi service can be Uber or it can be Ola, right? But there are persons who saw that this service can be huge, and you did it. So detailed understanding of your own product and services, right? Environment, market, economy, and strategic and viable positioning of your product and service in appropriate style and support helps to ensure proper valuation, right? Uh, Terms and condition of getting finance are very important, right? Because the other person is also a negotiator. Negotiations are very, very, as I'm going to say, uh, the rate of interest, whether it be quarterly or whether it be annual, right? Um, how how rich the lender is. If lender has given his last penny to you for borrowing, he is going to be calling you up 3 days in advance. That पहली तारीख के हफ्तों due है. On first the hafta is due. So just see that what are the terms and conditions of repayment, what are the terms and conditions of dilution, right? If you are diluting, right? Uh, be uh, be aware about it and take a known decision. Otherwise, the interest will just keep on mounting the way the clock runs. And the clock sometimes goes out of battery, but interest will never go out of battery. It will continue whether your wall clock works or not. And uh, good assessment of your funds requirement and timely matching at terms and conditions which are understood by both uh, is something which is very important. So, in short, sound project planning and implementation is important. Now comes some important fundas, right? Once a project is set up, once you have got your financing plan, right? Everything is nothing else but trading. You set up a huge refinery in Jamnagar. Having set it up, okay, having got the permission to manufacture this thing, what have you to do? You have to buy crude, employ people, enter into contracts with various service providers, and you sell it. Basically, trading, right? Availing of raw material, availing of services, and selling and availing of services, and so in order to be successful, you should not only be very good at planning the project, properly funding it, after considering the importance of working capital, and um, after that, you need to be equally good as a trader, right? Financial success depends upon profitability that one is able to achieve, right? Ultimately, you have to be able to generate sufficient profit. And in generating sufficient profit, one should understand the product that he's offering, right? It is not only what it costs me, right? When I started practice, one very senior businessman told me that, Amal bhai, what is your cost here? So you have to just take out a few pages and use your ink pen in order to write, and that's about it. So it's hardly 10 rupees a page, not more than that in any case, right? And how can you charge thousands of rupees for that? You know, so that's the value that you create in what you do is something that you should know that this is the value I am creating. Now that should not only be in your mind; it should be perceived and agreed by the buyer, because the buyer also has a, so he knows that how important this particular product is for me, right? And so he knows the outer limit at which he can buy. This fellow, the seller, knows the inner limit below which he cannot sell. The entire gap between the two is the gap of negotiation, and how effectively you are able to uh, uh, strike a balance in which favor the balance goes is nothing else but uh, negotiation. And therefore, the role of perceived cost and role of perceived value and role of negotiation is very important in running your business. Uh, so you cannot underline, because ultimately finance is what? Finance by itself, it's not a function. If finance is the goods you are dealing with, you are a merchant banker or you are a banker, right? But you are actually dealing with the purchase, you are actually dealing with marketing, you are actually dealing with production. The summation of it, it's like blood in your body. It goes to all the aspects of your body. And this is what I have tried to put it into my book as well, that uh, and therefore it is very important for you to understand your own fixed costs, your own variable cost, your discretionary cost, your marginal cost. You should know your cost, right? Uh, and you should know how to optimally utilize all the sources which you have got. Why do you think the Marwadis or the Jews are so successful in business? One of the reasons they are successful is that they all, one common factor is that they have come from the place where there was a water shortage. Now, where there is a water shortage, the person knows that I've got 3 buckets full of water from which I have to have my bath, I have to cook my food, and I have to quench my thirst, right? And I've got 4 persons in the family. So his allocation, his optimal use of limited resources is something which is inbuilt into them, and that gets reflected in the way in which they think while taking the decision. They uh, this is one of the factors why, and therefore, abundance of any resources leads to waste, and waste of resources is something that we cannot afford if you want to grow and be successful. And therefore, the persons with the sort of, it is very interesting correlation, but that's a correlation I find a lot of reasons behind, and I find it a very strong correlation which can be really meaningful. Another funda which I would like to for this is not only for startup, for everyone, and that is working capital management. Because you have a lot of funds need to be blocked up in your raw material inventory. It needs to be locked up in your work in progress. It is locked up in finished goods. It is locked up as debtors, and then the debtors will give money which will be useful now throughout this cycle time. Throughout this cycle time, which can be 30 days to even 180 days, depending upon the business model that you are actually operating. Your fixed costs will keep on occurring. Every month there will be salary. Every month there will be electricity bills. Every month there are certain committed expenses, right? And every month you have to keep the production running throughout. So during this period, so you will have to be very vigilant about making sure that your cycle operates seamless. And so while planning the project itself, make sure that there is sufficient funds which are kept apart towards contingency of working capital. Because ultimately your annual results are summation of your daily decisions, right? Your daily decisions will affect uh, your cost, they'll affect your selling price, they'll affect your working capital block-up, and summation of that over a quarter will reflect into your profit and loss account and balance sheet. Summation over a longer period, a year, will reflect upon your annual accounts. So daily decisions, but the moment the daily decisions we are taking, we tend to lose sight of long run. So you have to be careful that in short run you make profit, and also you make sure that your long run is not being affected. Say reduction in price, reduce the price of my product, and then buyers will come one after the other, right? But if you reduce the price for getting rid of extra stock is another thing. But if you reduce the price as the fundamental, right, you will never be able to match your expenses, and you will end up into loss. So take a short term as well as long term view while taking your daily decisions. And naturally, you should have certain contingency plans when you are doing the business. The contingency plan means that if things are not good, say you are not able to generate sufficient profit, and there are different opportunities and different openings which are coming, right? Can I exit? What happens if I exit, right? Um, Many a times, timely exit saves a lot of hardships. An early exit also, sometimes people will say you didn't wait enough. There was a story that someone exited, he's invested in Google a little prematurely. Fine, but for him at that point of time, it must have been a good decision. We never know. But whatever decision you take in business, right, as a startup, think that if things don't go well, what do I do, right? And how do I make an exit? Because planning an exit is also a very, very tedious process. It requires a lot of, say, if you want to close down a trust, not so easy to close down a trust. If you want to close a limited company, it's also not so easy to close it. Even if there is no business, zero income, zero revenue, zero assets, zero liability, even after that, right, you will have to build rhythms and file so many forms to so have your exit plans, that how I can exit if I need during the time of hardships. And another, that be prepared to face the failures, right? uh, and a plan to mitigate if things don't work out well, right? uh, because along with success, failures are also there. But then failure, there are certain temporary phases where you feel that you are failed. But then one should have some way of opening up, some way of uh, mitigating that particular loss and coming out of it. So don't one should not be uh, too much afraid of failures, but then you cannot think that I will always be successful, successful, successful. There are times where you may not be. And throughout the entire process of the life of a business, which is perpetual, opportunities and openings will keep coming. And therefore, if you find something very interesting, if you have an exit plan, you quit this and go into another business. That's possible, right? So exit plan is important from that point of view also. So, and along with that, threats also come. You never know that there is going to be a day when there'll be a complete lockout, right? The theaters, the huge event managers, the airline companies, the travel agents, they never thought about it. But it happened. Someone must have planned a lot of things based upon the fact that what is going to happen. Theaters, people will keep going, they enjoy plays. Uh, or people will keep traveling. The Gujus are very fond of going to different places every summer. But then this happened, right? So um, there is something called for the rainy days. One has to keep something for the rainy days and don't and some plan for the rainy days. One has to keep the eyes and ears open. Even in the lockdown, those who found that say restaurant owners, they concentrated on home delivery, right? And they had a good tie-up with uh, Zomato's and others, and they could at least survive through the crisis. They are surviving even today uh, with this, and then they'll have to redesign their entire because uh, the way it appears, this corona is going to have effect on the way the entire businesses are carried out. Whether the restaurants and others are affected very directly, there are some gainers also. They never thought that a simple tableting unit will have a huge order pile up with them, or the simple Ayurvedic drug, which I was uh, always making sure that does not pass the expiry date on my counter, is suddenly in demand and people queue up for it. So things change. World is dynamic. But one thing has come for permanence over past few months that I have been noticing, and that is the use of technology. The use of technology is, and as Noah has also said, that those who have got grip over technology will be able to, because there will be a class of haves and have not, but have what? Earlier, haves meant the persons who have funds. So persons who have got money, they are haves, and persons who don't have money. But a grade lower, who will have money? The persons who have got technology, the persons who are able to uh, understand the virtual world that exists and operate into that, they will be the persons who will be scoring above those who are not able to transact business on um, new technology platforms. And that's a huge challenge. That's a huge challenge. You'll soon see that the type of difficulties which the persons who are not highly educated, that they will find in getting jobs, that they will find in running and operating business, they will have to rely upon. Say we, as chartered accountants and consultants, right? Earlier, people used to meddle with filing their forms themselves. Now, under the guise of simplification, the uh, entire process of filing the returns and doing the assessments and hearing is faceless, and therefore it is done through the screen like this. And in order to do that effectively, uh, the small businessmen are not going to find it easy, or a startup will have to be good because he has to survive for a longer period of time because the day one is now, right? So uh, even if your idea is good, but if you are not in tune with technology, your business will fail, and the business will have financial difficulties. Uh, Naturally, it is going to fail. So technology is going to play a very, very important role, and that's a fundamental. right? Because finance funda is ultimately, if you follow your marketing funda as well, if you follow your HR funda as well, if you follow the statutory compliance as well, right? Then naturally sufficient finance is going to come. Uh, there are a few things which come into my mind when I talk about these issues, that the strength of the chain is the strength of the weakest link in the entire gambit of business, right? May it be marketing, production, HR, procurement, technology, everything. Now, if you are weak in any one, the strength of the chain, the business is a chain, and the strength of the chain will be determined and will be constrained by the strength of the link which is weak. So try to be smooth. Now, one person cannot be strong at all, but if you are not strong at all, make sure that you outsource it through a reliable agency who is able to provide you that. But be aware that this is an important area. I am not good at that. I will hire. Say I'm not good at technology. Fine. Then I will hire a computer expert who will come teach me or guide me or execute certain operations on my behalf. The second thing, which I said earlier, that you cannot take a decision which is better than your best alternative. Uh, so try to think about alternatives while taking a decision, but please don't keep thinking about it endlessly for a viable period. And ultimately, the right trait, right attitude, right personality, right psychology, and the right character of the entrepreneur. These are the assets of any entrepreneur in his or her journey towards entrepreneurship. Uh, I think I have exhausted something which I have to say on this subject. I request you to have a look at my book, uh, read it, and visit my website. It will be interesting. And you are most welcome to ask any questions which you may love to ask, please.
So, sir, there is a question for you.
Beg your pardon?
There is a question from a participant.
Yes, tell
What are the
me.
what are the key points to keep in mind to avoid cold start in a startup? Does keeping competitive prices in the starting really help in long term?
I beg your pardon? How to avoid?
What are the key points to keep in mind to avoid cold start in a startup?
Cold start.
Yeah, does keeping competitive prices in the starting really help in long term?
Uh-huh.
A question from Mr. Gurjit Singh.
Okay. Now, I fail to understand what exactly you mean by cold start. Means a very slow start?
Looks
Ruchit, if you can enlighten me on that.
yes, sir. It's slow start.
Tell me.
He is referring slow start.
Slow start. Now, slow or fast depends upon the person who is actually operating the system, right? Uh, it should not be too slow, but it should not be too fast and haphazard and half thought, right? Half baked food no one likes to eat. So you should be a good cook to realize that this much cooking time is enough. And otherwise, I'll tell you, the more people you ask, more different tunde tunde mati binna. So ask a limited number of persons, reliable persons who genuinely know the subject and who genuinely mean well for you. Ask them and then come to your own conclusion. You will not be able to pass on the responsibility of success or failure of your business if you are the owner. It is your business ultimately. So take a decision and then plunge into it. You'll be successful. Because quick decision many a time, irrespective of what, 60% of your decisions, if they are right, you are fantastic, right? If it is more than 60 to 70, 80, then you are out of the world. And if you are 90 and above, you are God. In a sense that you cannot take all decisions correctly. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't face cold start, but don't make it too hot. Okay. So the, be reasonably fast. And that's what you have to be, because quick decision is it's one of the great things of Churchill was that he used to take quick decisions, and that is what was required by Britain in the early 40s. He was known for his quick decision and firm decisions. But then, having taken a decision, don't be afraid of reversing it also, because there are no decisions which are irreversible. There is a cost, there is an implication, but don't feel that uh, ये प्रोडक्ट मैंने आउटसोर्स कर दिया तो भी आउटसोर्सिंग एजेंसी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विल एक्सपायर आफ्टर 1 year, so don't renew it, or renew it at a different term, or maybe it's the wrong product. That's the reason I said that have an exit route, have an exit plan. So you can avoid uh, the risk of taking sometimes, I would say, hasty decision, but don't just sit back, relax, and wait for the right thought, ideal thought, which never exists.
Yeah, his second question is, does keeping competitive prices initially would help in the long term?
Keeping
Keeping competitive prices initially would help the
uh,
business in long term, would help the startup in long term. That is a question.
uh, common facilities, ne?
Competitive prices.
Yes, competitive pressure is very important. Uh, and because you will be performing at your best, but then you will always be at the edge, right? Therefore, competitiveness is good, but don't keep your competitors always at top of your mind, because they are always there, right? You perform your duty in the best possible manner and see how you survive the competition. And if you are not able to survive with sufficient success and satisfaction, then um just think of alternatives. But competitive pressure is good. Excessive competition will reduce your profit margin. Healthy competition is something which is good. It makes you run. If you are a monopolist, then the chances of your not being able to uh, uh, go in for innovation, go in for change. And that's what happened. For instance, if you look at they were extremely satisfied with the old time thesaurus and encyclopedias and all. The technology changed, but they were satisfied. The Xerox, they were satisfied that we are doing good. There was hardly any competition. They were enjoying it, right? But then came the computer. The entire Xerox company went into a turmoil. The encyclopedia had to be stopped because Google is there, constantly live encyclopedia on almost everything, right? So if you are not in competition, there are chances and dangers of you being overly satisfied, overly content, and lazy at times. So competition is that way good, but a healthy competition. If the competition is cutting someone's or removing the carpet under this thing in unhealthy manner, is something which is dangerous. You have to be careful about.
Yes, sir. The next question is for you.
Yes.
Which is current trend or good business for a startup in next 1 year?
Which is the right business to start in the coming year? Huh?
Yeah, next 1 year. Yeah.
Now, you want to do the business only for 1 year, or you want to start within 1 year? I'm sure you want to start within 1 year. The current trend, the way it is moving, from my understanding, uh, number one, computers, uh, programming, that area. Now, at what level you are thinking is also important, but this particular area is something which is going to see a lot of this thing. Number one. Number two, of course, short term pharmaceuticals will be very good until the fear of COVID and all. But then preventive healthcare is going to be very important, and that's going to last. That's going to last. uh, because the pharmaceutical of the current is under a huge pressure to perform. and to counter COVID. And there are Ayurveds and naturopathy and others are saying that, so they are entering into competition, homeopathy, they're entering into competition with greater confidence, right? So in the short run, that sector will do. Skill is something which is going to be required, right? So if one does a good aggregation of home repairs or good aggregation of computer repairs, such businesses will be anything that helps in aggregating through use of technology is something which is going to be good, right? Uh, uh, Aggregation has been it's the success of uh, Google's and others, they're aggregating the data. Uh, Uber, which I have been constantly mentioning about, or Zomato, I have been constantly mentioning about. There are many who are aggregating even healthcare. So anything that is in for aggregation will be doing good, because mobility of people, whether they like it or no, is going to reduce. Their willingness to be mobile and the convenience of the mobile, the time it takes. And no one certainly likes to wear a mask and sit in the aeroplane and then again get tested. So it's going to be clumsy and people will try to avoid. Why? Uh, so short destination tourism will be good. People will like to, at least for a year or two, that's going to be. Say in Gujarat, no one had ever thought about Dang, but you suddenly started going there because it's short and easy to go, right? So that's how the things are likely to change in the coming 1 year. This technology, skill, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, those are the areas which will have a good time. That's what I feel. Of course, chartered accountants and those who are able to uh, uh, help in compliance of law. Law is going to be a fantastic area to be in, because the way there is a virtual no knowledge about law, I would say an average individual has got very minimal knowledge about compliance, right? And if someone can aggregate uh, the compliances, right, and does compliances for 10,000, 15,000 people and simplifies the law, that person is the next Google. That will be a next Google in that field. The way in which the lawyers are minting money. Not because my daughters are lawyers, but I think I really have suffering it from the other end also, because the lawyers, uh, the way they charge, the way they are difficult, and the way they are ill-equipped, even they do not know. The government doesn't know as to how many laws are existing today. We don't know how many laws we are flouting. And suddenly, say a Form 9 is required to be filed and you are penalized. And then no one knows that what happens if you are not filed. No one knows, in the department also. So you need to simplify. That is one area what going in for skill, and this is another. Many areas, if you think openly, many areas. Anything which you do with passion, anything which you do with commitment, and anything which you do with excellence will always have a room to perform.
Uh, Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Now I request Mr. Jamin Wasa to formally conclude the session, please. Jamin, sir, over to you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, friends. And I'm really very happy the way Amal Bhai, not only for his book, but he really wanted us to know, okay, what is important for a startup, what is important for MSME, what any entrepreneur should know about the accounts, and how important these areas of accounts are very important for any entrepreneurs to know about their every aspect of accounts, whether it may be a working capital, it is a capital expenditure, what is a capex or everything. So Amal Bhai, I'm really thanks
Thank you very
that
much.
not only you have launched your book, but you have launched so many SMEs and startups today. And I'm sure your book will really helpful to each and every people. And I really say, not because Amal Bhai is my friend, I have gone through this book. This book will be very, you can suggest to your friends, your clients, your SME friends, your startups, that this book, because everybody knows that I am MSME chairman. I did my PhD in MSME, and I really feel that for any SMEs, for any business entrepreneur, for any startup, this book is like Bhagavad Gita. And if you go through this book, if you keep this book on your desk, you will get a lot of solutions of your issues. So once again, thank you very much on behalf of AMA and on behalf of Governing Council of AMA, my president and all the office bearers and the members. I thank Amal Bhai and I wish you all the best. And I thank all the participants who have taken their good interest and asked the questions. Once again, thank you very much. Good night. Take care. Stay safe. Stay blessed.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you
Thanks a
very
lot.
much.
Good night to everyone. Good night, participants. Good night.